So yeah, welcome to another episode of Inquisitive Mind of Louis Tee. I got some wonderful guests, but can we move the Deer, either take the labels off the bottles or on the thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Deer Park didn't pay for this. They ain't sponsoring this, man.
All right, yeah, so thank y'all. We got another wonderful episode of the Inquisitive Mind of Louis Tee. I'm going to go around. I got my co-host, Mr. Hunt, to my left. We're going to go across. Everybody introduce yourself.
Yeah, what's good, everybody? Your boy, Kaze, 4 letters. Raleigh, Durham, you know. What's up?
My fault.
You good?
Yo, what up, y'all? It's the one and only Jousha Gunn, Bull City's own. Pleasure to be here in the Port City with my man, Louis Tee.
All right.
Yeah.
And my co-host?
I'm Alex Hunt. Check me out, Hunt for Greatness Podcast, HUNT 4, greatnesspodcast.com.
All right, and then we got a special topic. We're talking about pretty much the importance of it, just being an entrepreneur, being a boss, and everything. So the two gentlemen across from me, they got a lot of things going on right now. So I'm not going to be the one to talk about it. So let's Kaze, tell me about Club Vibe.
Yeah,
Vibe
House, man. Okay, so. You know, my background been in music in the Carolinas for a while, just the foundation of where we come from and what we've been doing in Chapel Hill, Durham, and that Raleigh scene for years, you know. And it's just being real. It's getting to a different chapter in where I'm at in my career now, you know, and I'm thinking about how can I maintain presence in music and art and creativity with longevity and still be relevant, not looking like an old head trying to be young, you know what I mean, or trying to act like I'm 16, 17 years old. At the same time, you know, I was out in LA for a little bit and just kind of opened my mind and ideas to how you can't just be a one-trick pony. You got to have, you know, you got to be diverse, you know, with what you can do, versatile, you know. If you can, you know, if you're a musician and you can act, why wouldn't you? Right. You know what I mean? If you a musician and you can act and there's a way that you can freak some hats or clothing that go with that brand, why wouldn't you do it? And so I kind of came back from Cali with that mentality, I need to push all the buttons, or there needs to be that type of place, a conduit, a workshop or something where all the creatives can get together, you know, where the people that do music and that are, you know, got cameras and do media, you know, photography, podcasts, make beats, do art. I was like, we need some type of, I know I needed it. I was like, we need some type of platform for that. And so, you know, blessings come how they do. You're just looking around, and it took a couple of years, but I was able to, with my partners, Wendy Mann, my boy Stephen K., we were able to secure a location on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill, Vibe House 405 studio. One side of it's for recording and music production, and the other side we maintain sort of multi-purpose for art shows. We had about 8 art shows there with independent artists, pop-ups, rehearsals, all of that. It's just creative space, man. If your band needed to rehearse, you could come there. If you had some type of podcast or any type of live stream, you could do that there. We keep that side just open for whatever people need it for. And you know, me being a Chapel Hill dude, it was always like a dream to say yo, we gonna put something on Franklin. It seemed far-fetched back then. You know, you got $5, you getting a 2 for $2 from Mickey, and you're talking about how I'm gonna put a studio on Franklin.
Yes, yeah.
But that was somewhere in the back of the mind, always a vision, a thing that I wanted, you know, to see come to fruition, something to manifest. And getting that location has been incredible. When we started out, it was more like, this is what we do. But now what we're realizing is it's more of what can we do for you? If you need social media presence, if you need to record your album, most studios, you're gonna pay your bread and then they're gonna get your CD and you walk out the door and then you gotta figure the rest out.
You don't even get your CD sometimes. You just get whatever, and you gotta go somewhere else to get it mastered, and whatever. So we saying not only are you paying for that, you're also paying for, hey, we got a showcase coming up at 506. You wanna jump on that? Yo, who's doing your video? Yo, what you doing with your social media? A little bit of guidance just to show hey, we appreciate you rocking with us. This is what's different
about us and our brand than other people, you know. So it's been cool. Been a year and a half. We've been moving, and I do say brand because if you see the logo, you know, we really hitting hard with that. You know, I learned a lot just trying to study the greats through the years, and I want this to be the Wu-Tang W, the Nike swoosh, the polo horse. Right. You know what I'm saying? The Supreme, like where you just can, you know, God bless Nipsey, Gary V, you know, the people that I've been like just studying, like I said, a new chapter, like where, you know, beyond music. The music has created a great awareness for who I am and what we do. But Vibe House and all of that, this is kind of like that next chapter of like what I seen Nipsey doing, like with the entrepreneurship. And that's, you know, I was like, yo, I want to come talk to you about that.
That's what's up.
Because now we young brothers that was battling, doing their thing, continuing to do their thing, but now it's owner's box, you know, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So, and Jay, so tell us about the Provident 1898 and everything that you got going on now.
Yeah, no doubt. Actually, it's a good segue from what Kaze was building on. You know, thinking about what's next, right? As an MC, as a creative, also thinking about creating space for the future generations, right? So Provident 1898 is a co-working space. At the core of what it is, it's similar to WeWork, or in Durham we have a spot called the American Underground. There's another brand called Spaces, but also Nipsey, you know, God bless the dead, was building a co-working space in Compton called Vector 90. So, you know, co-working is sort of the new wave in the way that people work, especially specifically entrepreneurs. Our space is in the historic home of North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance, which is a Durham-based company that at its height was the largest black-owned company in the world. And that building has since been acquired by new owners, one of which is my partner, Carl Webb. And Carl approached me about this concept of, you know, what do we do in a space that's got such historic significance, but that for the younger generation is typically viewed like a museum. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, Black Wall Street was an era that happened, and, you know, how do we get back to that? I've sat on probably 1,000 panels at this point about, you know, how do we revive Black Wall Street? And really, you have to. The first step is to create space for entrepreneurs from marginalized backgrounds, right? Giving them affordable office space, access to resources, access to venture capital, and in a facility that's top grade. You know, so often just because of, you know, our history, Black folks' history in this country specifically, we often have to settle for things, right? We'll say we're going to support a Black-owned space, but it's not quite as nice as the one across the street. But we support it, and we're proud to be in it, but it doesn't have all the resources that we may need. And because in terms of co-working, that was happening as well. There's other Black-owned co-working spaces that have tried to open up, even in the Triangle, but have hit some barriers in terms of resources, right? So we wanted to, you know, have a grade A or class A office space specifically for Black entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs from marginalized communities within the, sort of these hollow grounds at NC Mutual. And so we call it Provident 1898. As a way to pay homage to the original name of North Carolina Mutual, which was North Carolina Mutual and Provident Association, and the year it was founded was 1898. Obviously a significant year for Wilmington, 1898 is, and we think that makes sort of the story of NC Mutual even more remarkable, because just 2 hours down the road here in Wilmington, you know, there was a coup d'etat, or a race riot here.
A lot of people left here,
right,
and went to Durham to help that stuff. Yeah.
Shout out Chris Everett.
Exactly. Big ups to Chris, man, for the Wilmington on Fire film. But, you know, just that time period, and thinking that, you know, a Black man, John Merrick, who's the founder of NC Mutual, along with Dr. Aaron Moore, could create something that would grow to become so special. And the reality is we kind of lost that, you know, post-segregation, post the end of segregation, post-segregation, we lost that, right? We lost that sense of self and that sense of community because the sort of doors were open to other communities. And we are fully inclusive. You know, we welcome all people, but specifically creating space for Black entrepreneurs at Provident is very important to us.
Oh man, that's really dope. And it's funny, like the wave that Nipsey Hussle started. You know what I mean? Like in, you know, Kaze, it seemed like this was before him, you know, before his passing. But it was just like Nipsey was that kind of dude. And when you, like, both of y'all, what y'all talk about, and it kind of reminded me of what Dame was doing. You know, and I know you have relations with Dame. Like, what was the name of his studios? The
DD 172.
Were either one of y'all, what y'all doing now, were y'all inspired by that? Because, you know, I feel like people don't give him, because I feel like art is almost a wave, like the quote unquote wave. You know, it's cool to be artistic, I almost feel like he was too early with what he was doing with that.
You know, Dame is you know, I consider him a brother and a friend. Or, you know, I call him my uncle at this point. I speak to him a couple times a week, if not more than that. And he heavily influenced me, right? Spending time with him in L.A., just the conversations we would have on his back porch about, you know, how important it is to be more than just a rapper. You know what I'm saying? And he used to constantly talk to me about, you know, the way the industry was going is much more single driven, right? It's all about, you know, what's the hottest song. And in that climate, it's difficult for you to stay relevant if all you're doing is chasing that hot song. Right. So Dame would consistently give me, can we curse on the podcast? Or is it
you're fine.
Dame would consistently give me shit about, you know, not having enough merch pressed up, not having an internet presence that was strong enough, not opening my own venue to perform in. He used to always be like, yo, why are you chasing after these venues and booking these venues and giving half the money to this person? Build your own. You know what I'm saying? And every time I would make a little money from music, Dane would call me and be like, how you going to reinvest that? And at the time, I was like, bro, I'm trying to pay my bills. You know what I'm saying? But it really stuck with me, you know, and the minute I had some additional money to invest in something, I was looking for that opportunity, and really because of the seed he planted. But, you know, Dame is, he's willing to take risks that other people won't take because he's comfortable being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, that's his, when he makes a little money, he can't hold it long. He really, you know, I remember the Breakfast Club interview where he was saying that people were kind of clowning him for it. But being around him for all these years at this point, it's true. You know what I'm saying? Like, the minute he gets a big check, he's like, bro, I gotta put it back on the street because it's not growing for him. You know what I mean? And for him, you know, his long-term goals are really ambitious, right? Owning a football team is one of his long-term goals. And he recognizes that you don't get there by just getting money and putting it in the bank. You know what I'm saying? You got to take some risks. But it's scary sometimes, you know, thinking about the risks that he takes and looking at him like, man, you sure you're going to do this? But he believes in himself. You know what I mean? And that's something that stuck with me, too. I'll share one more story about Dame in terms of believing in yourself. Somebody at the door. We rolling? We still gonna roll?
Dame pulling up on
Dame,
you right
Dame like, yo, I'm flying out, B.
That would be
Talk
dope.
about me too long.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
Okay, keep it going.
All right. So, you know, in terms of believing in yourself and him just encouraging me to do the same thing. So, Dame took me to meet Kanye a couple years ago when he was doing the Pablo album. And, I was pressing Dame about taking me all day that particular day. Like, yo, I know Kanye in town, man. Take me to Kanye, take me to Kanye. So after about 8 hours of him explaining to me why he didn't want to go, I finally convinced him to do it just for me, right? So I'll speed the story up. I get to meet Ye. I'm hanging out with Ye. I'm listening to the album. It's an amazing experience as a fan of Kanye and all of that, and playing my music for him and sharing those stories. But the one thing that I wanted was Dame to ask Kanye to do a feature for me, right? Rapper shit, right? Yo, ask Kanye to hold me down, you know, get me do something for me. And so Dame didn't do it, and I was mad at Dame. So on the car ride back, I'm like, yo, why you didn't ask him? And he was like, do you want to be a fan of Kanye for the rest of your life, or do you want to be better than Kanye? And he was like, I think you're better than Kanye. That's the only reason I took you there. He was like, I would never, I'm the only artist other than like his main artist that he's ever took to meet one of his former artists. He was like, I wouldn't have taken you there if I didn't believe in you. He was like, but you in there acting like a fan. He was like, that's not going to get you anywhere in this industry. He was like, your goal should be to, you know, kill Kanye, not physically, but to surpass what Kanye has done. And it really fucked with me on the flight back to Durham. I was like, really angry at Dame about it. You know what I'm saying? And my initial response was, that's a bullshit answer. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, this is Kanye we talking about, legendary. You know, how could I be better than Kanye? But what he meant was, no matter if it's if it's reality or perception, you got to believe that you're that good and that you're that great, and be willing to risk it all on yourself without the help of someone who's already established. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, if you study history, there's very few artists that have been put on by another artist that have been able to surpass that artist who put them on. Right. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know. I disagree with that, but I'm not going to get into that on this.
We're going to hip hop next phase. Right?
Yeah.
But let's break it down.
But yeah, so speaking of. And did you want to touch on the studio
just
part?
real quick,
go
because
ahead.
when you said DD 172, man, and I think something that Dame doesn't get enough credit for is his discovery, like you said, his discovery of talent early on. I heard of Black Keys because they were working with him on this project with rappers, and Black Keys were doing all the beats. Yeah, Wiz, Currency, everybody that ski, everybody that was just over there, DD 172 floating around, being creative, right?
Yeah,
everybody
the
needs
CD,
that space.
The artwork was dope on the CD. I was working at Best Buy at the time,
right?
And I used to see the little, you know, the Currency and a couple other CDs.
Sure,
out from.
And I mean, you think about Ye's, being able to advance within that label situation was Dame pressing the button on him. You know what I mean? So, like, I just give respect to him on that level. I think a lot of cats, he has put a lot of people where they at.
That's right.
He has put a lot of people where
what
they at.
he just said about him believing in you.
Yeah.
In some form, it's like he almost believed in you more than you believed in yourself at that point.
At that moment, 100%.
That's what I'm saying. And it's important 100%. To have those type of people in your circle because if you don't have those type that right there has pushed me into doing a lot of the things that I've done outside of my box that I build for myself. Yeah. So I like the point that you made about him believing in you more essentially than you believed in yourself.
Yeah,
that's so real.
It's so weird because you are a cocky motherfucker. So that you telling that story.
Hey,
that's an awesome story, man.
Weird.
You want to know something, bro? Not to get too deep, but that's really armor, though, right? So when you as an MC. Hip hop gave me an armor, right? As this young, high yellow kid from Durham with no real like street pedigree or anything like that to move in this industry. Being nice on the mic gave me that armor. So that cockiness was really just like this protective coating for me to move throughout the world. And the more I'm around talented people, I realize that all of us have some sort of armor. Like for some of us it's an ego, for some of us it's money, for some of us it's cars. But you know what I mean? That cockiness was really just. Or is really still just my armor to move through a really dangerous and treacherous world, including the hip hop industry.
So yeah, all of y'all, with the exception of me, y'all are fathers. Y'all all have businesses. You have the podcast. You're also doing comedy. We went over to y'all businesses. How important?
Shouts out Intelligently Ratchet.
Yeah.
Season 3, right? 4?
Yes, sir. We just wrapped 3.
Yeah.
So how important are these ventures that y'all are doing? And I mean, you have, I'll start with you and work around, be able to have something to pass down to your kids.
Yeah.
Right.
What you're doing, like how important is it to have something, like do you look at this and want something that will be like a perpetual wealth for your kids and family?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, for me, knowledge is a big part of it. Like having experience that whenever my kid comes to me and he's like, hey, asking me a question, even if I don't know the answer to that question, I can point at you and be like, well, I know a guy that does. You can go to him. He can show you how to do what you're talking about. And that's a big reason why I started the podcast, is that I can learn from other people and kind of either point him in the direction where he can get the knowledge, because that is kind of wealth in some regard,
Knowledge is definitely wealth.
Yeah, and I think that me having these different experiences, like doing stand-up, it probably relates to whenever you would do open mics, maybe first starting off. Like, it's nerve-wracking and it's an ego check, and like if you're not killing it up there, like it can hurt your ego to where you're like, I don't ever want to go do that again.
I always say comedians have the hardest job in entertainment, bro.
It's tough. I just do open mics. I'm not even really I would like to be a comedian, but it's such an ego check, man. Like, if you're not up there killing it, like you think you're going to kill it in your head before you go on, it's kind of like, and it's taught me a lot. Like, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I need to work harder towards something. And having my kid, really, it changed so many, and I'm sure these guys can relate, it changed so many aspects of my life and the way I looked at things, and like I wanted to be better. And at everything I want to be better, because he looks up, not only and he looks up to me like I'm everything to him. I'm his hero, He's only 2 years old, and like everything I do, he wants to emulate me. And it's important for me to set a great example, like to go above and beyond. You know what I mean?
What about y'all?
I wanted to interject just real quick, because when we were talking about the armor and everything like that, when you're starting out in this thing and you're trying to make your name known and things like that, it's a lot of getting put in a position where it's like you got to rock at 8:30, right? They putting you on at 9, or it's like, you've been put in a situation where everybody looking at you as the opening act, and a lot of people, might be like, oh God, who is this? You know what I mean? And you get put in so many of them situations where the only way that you can pull through that and rock that is to say, nah, I'm nice like that. I came to kill everything. Y'all just don't know it yet. Y'all just late. You know what I mean? You'll catch up to it, because it take that. Because if you let that initial, vibe catch you, it'll knock you off. You cats would have been done. You know what I mean? Going off the strength of that energy. Yeah. So you have to come in, toot it up a little bit. You know what I mean? As far as like, belief in yourself. Right. I'll say that. There's arrogance, there's ego, then there's confidence. Like, I came to do what I came to do. Yeah. You know?
I think you need a little bit of all of them. Yeah. Especially, like, to your point, open mic or being an opener, you need arrogance, confidence, ego, and a little bit of insanity, right? Because if you allow, even if you allow like rational thoughts to creep in, I know you've been there, Kaze, because we've been doing it a long time. If you allow that thought to say, well, damn, I ain't made it by 23, I ain't made it by 25, and all your friends moving on and your peers moving on, and if you ain't crazy a little bit to keep going, you gotta be crazy a little bit to push through this thing. So, I think that's real shit, man. You gotta have the perfect mix of confidence, cockiness, and a little bit of insanity, man, to really get through. But
you gonna go ahead?
But to your point about the kids, man, I know we want to rap about the children. My daughter is, she certainly changed my world, and I know it goes without saying for every parent in the room. But also, Provident 1898 was something that, sort of going down that path was definitely influenced by her being born and me wanting to leave something for her, leave a legacy beyond. I pray that my music will live on forever, and I know that it will. But to leave something tangible for her, a business that can, put money in her pocket and set her up better. So, even if it's not having student loans or not, just getting a slight head start on where I started, you know what I'm saying, is a big deal. So, to answer your question, Louis, 100%, bro. Being a parent, it changes your outlook on everything, but business included.
Definitely. Short answer, definitely working to leave. I got a son, 8 years old, shouts out Corn. And, you start thinking about, it's part of when your mentality changes. Before I'd have been cool with like, okay, if I got to sleep on the couch or this futon, or I'll do without this or whatever. Yeah. Little homie can't do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then change your perspective. Even in that like first 3 years of my son being here, if it didn't make dollars, even it just didn't make sense anymore. Like hanging out or just laying versus random stuff, just doing random stuff, stopped making sense. Because you're like, yo, I gotta focus this time and this energy. Yeah. Wifey looking at you like, what's good? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, come build time and things that gotta happen. Yeah. And so you start thinking about, what can I build? What can I own? The kids I looked up to and kind of was low-key jealous of were the ones whose parents owned a business and they worked in their parents' business, and it was already something that they could kind of like pass over to them, at least where there was some wealth of ownership, and that's something that I see in this, whether my son want to be a musician or not, or deal in like art and creative or not. I just, maybe he'll be a business mind. I don't know, but to have something to leave him, is grade A1 for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So where can people find all the information on Vibe House, like in Kaze, like run the social media and everything?
For sure, Vibe House 405 on Instagram. That's VIBEHOUSE 405. Home of the creative rebels, good vibes only. And like I say, whatever anybody needs, just holler at us, get at us. We got all the information on the IG and on Facebook as well, and the website, vibehouse405.com.
How can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Kaze 4 letters, KAZE, the number 4, and LETTERS on Instagram. Right. Same on Snap, and Facebook, Kevin Kaze Thomas. All right. Yes, sir.
Mr. Gunn?
Everything is at Gunn is better. JGUNN is better. Provident 1898 is provident1898.com. Logo right there. I don't know which camera we on, but logo right there. Oh, boom. Provident1898.com. Gunn is better on all the socials. Joshua Gunn, real name on Facebook. But most importantly, tune into Provident for now. We're really trying to build this as a movement. There's one phase of Provident I didn't mention, if I could, real quick, Louis. It's called the understudy. It's the second construction phase. So we just opened Provident in April. We have a second phase of Provident that will open in July. The third phase is called the understudy, and it's creative co-working space for artists. So we'll have shared studio space. We'll have a 50-person black box theater for actors and vocal performers, as well as dance and movement studios. And all this happens in the basement of the building. So the understudy is sort of a double entendre there. And that should be open in late fall, so October, November of 2019. So Whether you're creative or a normal, or a sort of mainline straight entrepreneur, we welcome you to, find a home at Provident 1898 or at the understudy.
That's dope, man.
Okay. And where can they find you at, Alex?
Oh, yeah. Find me, hunt4greatnesspodcast.com. That's hunt4greatnesspodcast.com. Everything's on there. Check me out.
All right. And follow them on social media as well, but you can get that from the website.
That's all on the website.
And then,
and shouts out Intelligently Ratchet. I forgot to, once again, make sure y'all check that out.
Wednesday.
We off the air right now. We'll be back in September, but Wednesday nights at 9 on Facebook Live. We're about to make that jump to YouTube, though. Facebook getting too complicated. Just morally. It's just too many roadblocks.
Facts. The Farrakhan thing was a big blow for me.
We're about to.
Speaking of YouTube,
step into a different realm.
Make sure you hit subscribe. Search me IMoLT on IMoLT Podcast on YouTube, IMoLT Podcast on Instagram, Inquisitive Amount of Louis Tee on Facebook. Make sure you share, like, but most importantly, hit subscribe. Need to get them subscriptions up. If you want to be a sponsor, make sure you mindoflouist@gmail.com. I'm sure Ibby, is going to have all that information here and in the credits. And then, next week, check us out. We're going to have if you haven't got the hint, we got two phenomenal artists here. We just talked about the business side, but come on, check us out next week. We're going to talk about that NC hip hop shit.
Who sponsored the chicken wings?
Oh, yo. Hey, good. Yeah.
They must have been good. He remembered.
Yeah. Big shouts out to Solancha, pub in Monkey Junction, Wilmington. They definitely are craft services. Hooked it up. Big shout out to Mo, the manager out there.
Real good. Thank you, Mo.
On point. We got pictures of Kaze tearing down some chicken. So, that's going to be on my, check my Instagram for that.
Man.
Definitely big shout. Thank you for that, Kaze.
All good, bro.
Thank y'all for coming. These are two brothers I've known for a long time. And like I said, and you definitely want to check out part 2 of this next week.
Man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Bro.
Thanks for coming.
Man, for real.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.